Good morning, NIKKE's commanders and citizens of the Ark. I'm Commander Midwest, and welcome to the 11th edition of This Week in NIKKE. Coming off the end of the 2x2 Love event and Full Metal Panic, things are heating up even more with the upcoming live stream for the 3.5 anniversary, and preparing for it with things like the Pretty Star side story, the 4th Dokidoki popularity poll, the start of a new event introducing Snow Crane with the Good World event. I will do something a little different this time. I will still refrain from hitting on campaign updates, as those need a lot of time to bake for most people, and would take up too much time for me to include 2 chapters worth of story in their respective reports. But with side stories typically playing a big role in the story leading up to and into anniversary events, I will make an additional video covering only the events of the side stories, whenever a new one comes out. So please look forward to that. But of course, timestamps will be available like usual. But without further ado, here's the story of Snow Crane with Good World. A newscast announces that Counters has established the first bit of the surface at Reclamation Site 1. Inside the Ark, Snow Crane watches the announcement and recognizes your name on the screen. She recognizes you, seemingly from a long time ago, as she sees how much you've grown, when she realizes she must have been at her work for years looking at you now. She excitedly is ready to finally join the Ark. After mending an issue with one of your reports last night, you lie down on a park bench. You fall asleep, but through your blurred vision, a nice woman tends to you, teasing you for being so careless, but making sure you're okay before briefly leaving. Suddenly, you wake up to a screaming girl in the park with a white handkerchief in your lap. Miranda says that the girl was separated from her parents and she was supposed to bring her to the station, but she refuses to leave since her friend is missing too. She says that a Miss Snow said that she would find her friend, but now we have 2 people with missing whereabouts. You promise to find this Miss Snow to the girl, but just as you head to leave, a woman in white, with white hair to match, appears, ready to find the missing person, but the child recognizes her as Miss Snow, or her real name, Snow Crane. Snow Crane pulls out a teddy bear with a pink ribbon and gives it to the girl, which turns out to be her missing friend. She prepares to find the new missing person before being told that it's actually her they were looking for, and she apologizes for getting lost, since she hasn't been up to the Ark in a long time, which catches your attention. Miranda and the child leave when Snow Crane stares at you, and begins to apologize for leaving you without a blanket when you realize the handkerchief and the woman from your vision was her. She also knows your name and asks you to lower your head when she ruffles her hand through your hair, praising you for all you've accomplished as a commander and how you've grown. This also catches your attention, but before you can pry any further, she realizes she's late and must get to a train station. Very behind on the advancements in technology, it seems. You bring her there. At the station, she's even more confused and gives you the address she's been trying to get to, a department store on Royal Road. Still seemingly confused, you offer to take her there as well when she pats you on the back now. You say it's only natural to help her out, but this cuts her expression, saying that nothing is only natural and that everything is down to the choices we make. She offers to grant you a wish in exchange for your help when it's all over, and when you remember how she seems to know where you're from and when you were a child, you decide that you'll ask her about the program you were from, but hold off on the specifics until later. At Royal Road, she is overwhelmed, saying she has always been traveling for agreements, so this is all new to her. She's heading to a cafe on a lower floor called Under Grace, and we head there. She's delivering a letter from a signatory from a past agreement, she says. Finding her recipient, saying she has a letter from the you-know-who, she delivers a letter. After being served to some coffee, Sarah comes to you both happily, having only ever conversed with Snow Crane by a letter. They are both several decades old, it seems. Sarah had migrated to the Ark, and she came alone, supported by a foundation. In return, Sarah entered an agreement with Snow Crane, who oversees the foundation on behalf of another, to write her each year about changes to the Ark. With the agreement being complete as of this day, Snow Crane and Sarah finally meet with a handwritten letter from them, she says. She reads the letter but begins to cry, saying she never got to meet them. As part of the agreement, after giving her time to cry, Snow Crane asks Sarah if she believes that the Ark has become a better place. Being brutally honest, Sarah says no, and that all that has changed has been the process. People have grown complacent and forgotten about the war on the surface, and blame the NIKKEs, saying that Tetra, Pretty, and squads all over have definitely helped, but people fall back in their ways, and even within their foundation, trying to steal funds only to fall victim to their judgment, which again catches your attention. Sarah apologizes for their negative last meeting, and the two thank each other for their time and efforts. The next stop is a hospital, with the next letter to a man named Oliver. Snow Crane notices we're troubled about something though. Her age. when emergency services rush through the hallway. NIKKE has been badly injured, and we stand and take in the scenes around us. Eventually, the nurse grabs us. Oliver is hooked up to a web of machines and tubes and knows why Snow Crane is there now, to inform him that the contract has ended. More composed, but no doubt just as distraught, he shares the same disappointment that this mystery person will not be meeting them after all, and understands that Snow Crane will not be able to explain why. She asks the same question, but Oliver says yes. He does think the Ark has improved. He says that he lost his family to the Raptures, but because of the people in the Ark and the Foundation, he was able to live a long and meaningful life, to which he believes there's no way it could be worse now. Before we leave, Oliver asks Snow Crane if she does meet this him, to let him know how grateful he is for letting him live his life as a human, and she agrees to do so. On our way to the next stop, Snow Crane hears our stomach growl, and we eventually end up taking her to a nearby restaurant for lunch. We get a bit more info on Snow Crane, that she's been underground for the longest time for work with her contracts that she oversees, and we take our meal to go. We sit down and begin our meal, and let it slip that we decided to sit outside because we picked up on how Snow Crane loves to observe people at all of our stops today. Being underground for so long, the letters she received on the Ark were the only real way of feeling the living, breathing Ark, as she puts it, and admits to some sadness that the contract is over, but praises those for fulfilling their contract to their end faithfully. It turns out she's not able to end contracts very often, and that she had to punish those who tried to take advantage of the organization in the past. In the end, only 3 of the original 100 fulfilled their contracts, whether it be due to illness, death, or even discipline. Because of the rarity of a fulfilled contract, she is happy to be bringing them to a close and meeting those who filled her mind with the Ark for so many years. She thanks you for being such a good person, which passes over a sense of guilt as you really want to know about your past. Our last contact is Leo, and he's nearby, but we see things often do not end the way we believe they will before moving forward. We arrive at our destination, but even though Snow Crane was recently in contact with Leo, he now resides in an urn, having passed away a week prior, waiting patiently for the day Snow Crane would come. We tell Crane that even though he no longer may be able to read it, she could read the letter to him at his grave, having fulfilled his end of the bargain, properly bringing the contract to a close. She reads the letter, the writer wishing they could see Leo and the others, it seems, in person, thanking them for their dutiful work to the organization, and that although they will no longer be walking side by side, they will always be cheering them on. Signed, your eternal supporter in life, before placing the letter before Leo's grave and closing the contract with tears falling from her face. Returning to the park, now late, Snow Crane now aims to fulfill her end of the bargain with you, and the mood becomes more serious, as you ask her if she'll be able to answer honestly. She will, she says, unless contractually obligated against doing so. If that's the case, you ask her to say it's confidential and move on, and she agrees. She asks us to lower our head one more time, and brushes it just like before, bringing us down from a state of tension we didn't realize, and we start to ask our questions. We ask if she knows about our past from earlier in the day, but she says that she really only knows our name, more specifically about our birth, and it being related to a contract. And we ask if it was about a special project, and she asks if we remember, to which we reply only one short memory a while back, and she confirms that we were born from a project, and we respond with the name, Project AD, which surprises her even more, and we ask for anything, even a hint of what kind of experiment it was. She pauses, us fearing the worst, and she says that she must read the terms of her contract before responding, that every detail is completely confidential. However, she is able to explain the reason for the project being created, which is a story about a very old contract. When the Raptures first began to invade the surface, the United Forces of Humanity and the VTC joined forces. However, upon the decision to retreat to the Ark, the UFH officially merged with the VTC in order to secure the technology needed to better govern the Ark, becoming the central government as of today. The terms being, the VTC was to continue their research they were conducting on the surface, and thus entered an agreement with Missileless Industry, forming the MMR. For the UFH, they wanted to develop technology that would help mankind, requesting the VTC to share its scientific advancements. Among others, those were the biggest conditions. In the end, a final term was added. This agreement has been made under the supervision of Veiled Order, a squad that exists to serve as witness to contracts. Should either of the two parties violate any of the aforementioned terms, they may be suppressed by force. It's then that we piece together that Snow Crane was there. When it came to the technologies that would help mankind, the you-know-who offered themselves as a subject in exchange for the beginning of Project AD. She says this person is someone who wanted to make the world a better place, the ARC being the starting point of that. It also turns out that Evergreen, the drug we've been hearing about all day, was also related to Project AD, and was able to be mass-produced thanks to them as well as the forming of the Foundation. For this, Snow Crane sees Project AD as a founding stone to this man's honorable goals, and hopes that we will look at it in the same way, as well as one day being able to know the truth. We ask one more question, who this person is, and they respond that they are our boss, more specifically, the Commander-in-Chief of the ARC. After revealing that the Commander-in-Chief is very much real, and that he's sacrificing for the ARC even now, Snow Crane asks us the same question she asked Sarah and Oliver. We answer one of two equally true ways, either stressing the continuance of sorry affairs and emphasizing the necessity for people to recognize our flaws and move in a new direction, or taking notes of those people who are taking those steps and admitting that while the ARC itself may not be improving, as long as people keep trying, we will get there one day. In response, Snow Crane offers her answer, that having seen the ARC from the beginning, and people still suffering and grieving, people able to eat together and smile when a lost friend is returned to them, and all the other attempts at normalcy, she believes that is only possible because of those same people you answered about, striving to make moves in the right direction. We finish the conversation with her now agreeing to live in the ARC, and to watch us as we create the future she believes to be the good world that she dreams of. Getting into the week now, starting off hot with everyone's favorite time of the year, the Dokidoki popularity poll started where the Commanders, for the fourth time around, could vote for their favorite NIKKE, showing off who they vote for in order to win in-game rewards and resources, but also battling to find out who will get into the Hall of Fame and get their own costume, mini-story, and special theme song, as well as who will take up the top 5 this year, earning themselves an Avatar border. Last year was one of the most heavily contested years to date, with Rappy Red Hood coming out on top in the end over Cinderella, the heavy favorite this year. Her competition also likely expanded with the release of a few fan favorites and Pilgrims. But the overall winner will be announced after a week of voting during the 3.5 anniversary live stream on the 18th. In addition, the daily special vote for the 8th was for the favorite NPC. Other than the popularity poll, the focus of this week was with the new event Good World, introducing Snow Crane, a Burst 2 water-coated defender. She is the newest missileless sniper rifle unit, primarily acting as a healer and buff while also gaining Pierce during her burst. For her skill 1, she heals 10% of her own health to all allies continuously. However, if she receives recovery, the amount granted will slowly decrease by 10% for 3 times. Her skill 2 heals herself for 1.32% of her maximum HP, and also affects all allies once she has done 3 charge attacks. Full Burst also activates a shield for her team for 9.5% of her maximum HP, which lasts for 10 seconds. And lastly, when Proof of Violation debuff reaches 3, she will no longer recover less and will gradually gain a 0.25% of her HP every second. Her burst is very simple. On a 40-second cooldown, she will automatically heal the team for 44.68% of her maximum HP, and will gain Pierce in the process. Her roll, unfortunately, for her kit is not great, and is pretty situational. However, if you're looking for a shield or a quick burst of health at PvP, this is where she would shine the best. On Thursday, April 9th, the daily special vote switched over from favorite NPC to favorite costume, and a reminder went out for the school-themed Global Creator Contest, asking commanders to get their submissions in as the event will take until April 20th, just before midnight UTC 9. 2 battles started with the Union Raid going up against Spread, Crystal Armor, Kraken, Rebuild Cucumber, and Stormbringer, lasting up until April 16th at 5 AM UTC 9, as well as the start of the co-op battle, which lasted until April 12th, where commanders teamed up to fight Harvester. The next day, on April 10th, started with a comic panel featuring Chime and Crown, with Chime cheering on Crown for having the foresight to start a survey expedition after seeing she is headed in the wrong direction of their destination, which of course was always the plan. Then, the daily special vote switched over to Commander's Most Memorable minigame, followed by a Blah Blah Link event showing off our world to Snow Crane for a chance to win 300 gems. To start the weekend, on Saturday, April 11th, the special vote was Most Memorable Rapture and the SD Avatar distribution for Snow Crane, followed by Sunday, April 12th, which switched to the Most Memorable BGM. Additionally, wallpaper distribution for Good World also released on the Google Drive. Going into the next week, Monday, April 13th, last but not least, the special vote started with the Most Memorable Story event. Promoting the new side story, we also have the Anise Past side story PV release on Twitter and YouTube. Then we had the mini Snow Crane event, trying to help Snow Crane get used to her new technologies on the Ark based on her notebook and using the hashtag SnowCraneQuestions to answer them. And on the last day of the week, April 14th, we got our first comic of Snow Crane, learning about those new technologies we just talked about, and the helpful and not helpful ways of using a smartphone in the modern world. Next, we had the YouTube subscription event for commanders who subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the event video, and share an image of it to the official Twitter page. 30 will receive standard recruit vouchers as rewards in-game. And to cap off the week, we got a reminder for the 3.5 anniversary live stream going live at 7 p.m. UTC 9 on April 18th. Thank you all for sticking with me for the second video back from the break. I can't wait for next week's video. After all, we are a super fan, TT Star super fan here at Midwest Weeb. And luckily, the story content for Good World will be very minimal, with only the hard mode ending next week. So most of the report will be going over the events of an otherwise quiet week, capped off by a hopefully amazing live stream. But with that said, I've been Commander Midwest. This has been a week in NIKKE, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you, thank you.